So what you're about to see, it was filmed 3.5 weeks ago. So in the video that when I'm talking, I was 17.5 weeks or 17 weeks and a few days. And I'm now currently 21 weeks. I also mentioned in this video that me and the kids are about to go on a trip back home to see family. So I will post photos at the end of a little bit of our trip back home, because that has already happened and we are now back in Hawaii. Most of this video is me talking, doing the Q&A and doing the update, so I apologize for that. But I will be posting photos throughout the video so that you can look at those while I talk and it's not just my annoying voice. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Hi everybody. It has been quite some time since I've last updated on everything. I think the last video was our very first ultrasound, and I'm pretty sure that's where I ended it. But so much has happened since then. I haven't picked up the camera at all because it's just been so crazy. Nothing bad, well, not too bad with like a baby, but it's just been a really wild ride so far. So I'm sorry if I feel like I'm echoing in this room. So I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm echoing. But on Instagram about, I think a month ago, maybe, when did I screenshot? Yeah, about a month ago, I posted on Instagram asking if anybody had any just general surrogacy questions, because I got a few in my inbox, and if you follow me on Instagram, I answered all of the questions on there and I saved them to my surrogacy highlight. So this is basically just gonna be a Q&A of the questions that I was asked, but I'm gonna put it on YouTube because a few people on Facebook don't follow me on Instagram. So I'm going to re-answer all those questions here, probably do a little bit more explaining than I did on Instagram stories because I just typed everything out on there. And then a second trimester update, because I am currently 17 weeks. So quite a bit into the second trimester now, and I thought I should just let you know how the first trimester went and how it's going right now. So we're gonna do the Q&A first, and then I will get to the update after. Okay, so one of the questions was, did your IPs go to transfer or the first sonogram? So my IPs, and if you don't know what IP stands for, it stands for intended parents. That's just the name that the parents are kind of given in the surrogacy world. They're just called the intended parents. They went to the first transfer. Nobody was allowed in the room with me though for the actual transfer. My husband came with me the first time, and he was allowed to come in after they did the transfer, because afterwards you have to sit there and wait for about 15 minutes lying down, and he was able to come into the room after that. And then my IPs ended up waiting in the waiting area that they have there. And you know, we said our goodbyes afterwards, and we all know how the first transfer ended up going. The second transfer, they did not come because they were both just busy. My husband actually didn't even come because he was also working. So a fellow surrogate, one of my closest friends now, ended up taking me and bringing me to the transfer and staying with me the entire time. So that was nice that I wasn't completely alone. Even though I knew what to expect, it was still kind of nice to have someone there with me. So IM stands for intended mom, and then IF stands for intended father, or intended mother, or intended mom, and then IF stands for intended father.
So my IM, it's just easier to say it like this. She did come with me to the very first ultrasound that you saw in the last video. And you can actually hear her talking, I think, in that last video. So that was really fun that she got to be there, to see that, you know, everything was looking good. Baby had a heartbeat. It was pretty great. Sorry, this one's like, these are kind of long. So without reading the entire copy, let me get to the question. What is it like growing a baby you know you can't keep? It's, I think, a question that a lot of surrogates get asked, and you have to go into surrogacy if you want to go on to this journey of being a surrogate, knowing that this baby is not yours. It is not biologically related to me whatsoever. So I don't really feel anything towards like baby. Like I care about baby because I'm like growing him, and I want to protect him and make sure that he makes it to this world safely, because his parents, they just have been waiting so long for him. So I care about him in that sense, but it's kind of like he's not mine to begin with, so I don't really feel any like, oh no, I don't want to give him up type of thing. Like, there is none of those feelings there. Would you actually go into detail of how a baby is inserted inside of you? So I showed it with both transfers, I think. And I don't know if I ever really explained it, but you could see, and in the last video, the doctor actually explained. So what they do is they have an embryo that is the mom's egg and the dad's sperm that creates the embryo. And they use a tiny catheter to go in through the vagina and in through the cervix to the uterus. And the embryo is surrounded by a little bit of fluid, and they just push that fluid with the embryo into the uterus through the catheter, where hopefully it will snuggle in and implant. So that's kind of the basics of how it's done. There's a lot of different videos on YouTube that you can watch, how they create embryos and how, like, the whole process of sucking it into the catheter and inserting it in. There's just a ton of different videos if you want to go watch that, but you can go back to my previous transfer videos to see them actually do it via ultrasound. Is there anything like cravings or symptoms like that you're having with this baby that you never had with either of your own babies? So craving wise, no, I don't really get like true cravings. But sometimes, like, I'm like, oh, you know what, it sounds really good right now, and I'll want that for like dinner or a snack, but nothing like I need to have this right now type of craving. Symptom wise though, this has been a totally different pregnancy than my last two. And this kind of goes into my first trimester, second trimester update, but I was more nauseous this time in the first trimester. I never actually threw up, which is very, very surprising, but I did not feel great pretty much every single day, all day. I always felt very nauseated. I didn't have a lot of energy. It wasn't that I was tired, but I didn't have the energy to do anything. I just wanted to sit on the couch or lay in bed, and that was it. So that was really rough in the first trimester, because I felt like it wasn't that bad the previous 2 times I was pregnant with my own. And then the second trimester has also been very, very different, and I will go into that a little bit later. Do your kids grasp and understand that this is not going to be their sibling? How are they acting with the baby? So Avery is my 5-year-old. She's the oldest. She totally understands. Like, as soon as we kind of told her, she was maybe like a little like, but she totally understands. She gets it. She knows that this is not going to be her sibling, but she's still super excited, and they both touch my belly and, you know, say hi to the baby, give baby a kiss. She's named the baby herself. She's named the baby Key. I don't really know why, but she just said, like, I'm gonna name him Key. And I was just like, okay, so that's just what she calls him right now. But she's just like, oh, how is he doing? Is he growing? She just asks a bunch of questions, and she knows who the parents are. She's met them before. They have a son who's about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years older than her. And so they get along really, really well, and she knows that that's going to be their sibling. Dakota, he's still young. Like, he knows that there's a baby inside of me, but he kind of is just like, yeah, there's a baby inside of you. Like, whatever. He doesn't really care, and he doesn't grasp that it's, I guess, not going to be coming home with us when I deliver and everything. Like, he just knows, like, oh, there's a baby, because he sees his sister saying, like, oh, you know, there's a baby, we gotta be careful, don't jump on mommy, stuff like that. So it's really great. And he's also met the parents and their son. Did you know the family beforehand? No, I did not. I am going through an agency, and I looked at a couple of different profiles, and I matched with this family, and we met each other for the first time over Zoom, and maybe a few months, or maybe it was weeks, can't remember the timeline exactly. We got together in person for the first time, and we met, and we've gotten really close. Their family has reached out to me, and they're just the sweetest people ever. So I didn't know them before starting. I didn't know who was going to be the intended parents that I would be a surrogate for until I looked at their profile and said, I want to get to know them a little bit more, and we matched. Do you plan to be involved with the family even after you deliver? Yes, that was discussed during our very, very first meeting before we decided on anything, that, you know, we wanted to have that open, I guess you can say, like, an open relationship after baby was born, because they do live here on the island, so it makes it easier to do that. And they've just been so great throughout this whole entire process. They feel like family now. So we are here in Hawaii for about another 1.5 years, and I plan on, sorry, I have like an eyelash on my eye. I plan to see baby as often as the parents allow and want to. So that should be really nice to see baby grow up in person, and then over social media, or just via like text message or something after we move. Do you feel the same as you did for your previous pregnancy? Yes and no. I think I kind of answered this a little bit. This pregnancy has been very, very different. So it's kind of like a whole new ball game a little bit, but generally, yeah, it feels just like any other pregnancy. Just symptom wise, it's a little different. The last question is, why would you have to take IVF shots? This person goes on to say that I thought that was for women who have trouble getting pregnant. So even though I never had infertility problems getting pregnant, it's still I'm trying to explain it as the best as I can. So this is what I wrote on Instagram that best describes why I still have to go through the entire IVF process to carry this baby. And I wrote, because I'm not ovulating and getting pregnant. Sorry, my dogs are barking downstairs. Because I'm not ovulating and getting pregnant naturally, my body won't make the progesterone needed to sustain the pregnancy until the placenta takes over, which is why I have to take progesterone shots for 12 weeks. That is when the placenta is fully formed and takes over. Estrogen shots before transfer are meant to prepare the uterine lining to support the embryo, hopefully implanting after transfer. Even though I do not have infertility struggles, I have to do the IVF because my body is not creating a baby on its own, so it needs the help. So with my first transfer, I had to do Lupron, which basically tells my ovaries not to make any eggs, I think, or release any eggs. And then the estrogen, it was estradiol injections, helps thicken up my lining, so that way it's like a nice environment for the embryo to implant, because the embryo can't implant if the uterine lining is not thick enough. It's kind of like getting in like a little pillow, like you have the best chances of it. I was saying that the estradiol shots, I think that's where I left off, just helps thicken the uterine lining, because an embryo can't implant correctly or successfully if the uterine lining is not thick enough. If it's thin, then it just, the chances are just very, very low. So yeah, that is it for the questions. If you want to see into details of, I wrote them all out on Instagram in my surrogacy highlight if you want to do that there. So now into the first trimester, second trimester update. First trimester was really, really rough. I didn't want to pick up the camera or do much of anything because I just felt like crap all the time. I took some bump pictures here and there, but for the most part, I really didn't do anything. I didn't even leave the house. I think I went to Target for the first time in over a month, and I was just like, I haven't been here like in forever, because I just couldn't like leave the house. I couldn't get up to like do much of anything. I couldn't eat much of anything, even though I was so hungry. So the first trimester was very, very rough compared to my previous pregnancies. Also during that time, Hawaii, here in Oahu, if you just Google search Oahu, Hawaii Navy water crisis, a bunch of news articles should pop up on Google. What happened was there was a Navy fuel tank that's underground. Something happened and there was a leakage that turned into a full spill, and that fuel contaminated the drinking water for a lot of the military housing where it happened, and that just so happened to be one of the housings that we were in that got affected. So during the first trimester, it was really rough dealing with a water crisis because we couldn't use the water, we couldn't shower, bathe, we couldn't wash dishes, we couldn't cook with the water. It was really hard. We did get a hotel for a little bit, and then that the Army thankfully paid for, since we were living in Army housing, but that only lasted about 2 weeks, and then we had to kind of fend for ourselves. It was right around Christmas too that the 2 weeks was up, and a lot of the hotels here in Hawaii started upcharging, and it was just very, very expensive. So it was just kind of rough going from place to place, trying to do our clothes, wash dishes, take baths. It was really exhausting, especially being so sick. I was miserable. So right when we hit my second trimester, around 14-ish weeks, I think I was, we decided to move up island to Army housing. And we didn't do it sooner because I was really hoping that they would have got everything under control, but it wasn't looking like they were going to do that. So this spill happened in like the very end of November, right after Thanksgiving. It actually happened before Thanksgiving, but there wasn't any noticeable signs of it until after Thanksgiving. And so it is currently February 21st, and the water contamination is still very much going, and it's not fixed just yet. And we moved in January 28th to this new house. So for about 2 months, we were just kind of living off of bottled water to do everything, and going from place to place, like different friends' houses and stuff, to just take baths and be clean. It was not a very fun time. So after we finally got settled, we've been in here for about 3 weeks, 3.5-ish weeks now, and we had to downsize. So we were in a 4-bedroom house, now we're in a 3-bedroom, so it's been interesting trying to figure out where to put stuff. But yeah, so far everything's been going great with that. I'm really happy that we finally moved away from there, and now I'm in my second trimester. I'm in my second trimester, 17 weeks. The nausea has gone away, thank goodness, but I think what I have is pregnancy rhinitis, which is nasal congestion. So it just, everything like right here is just constantly stuffy, and I've been having a lot of headaches. I'm constantly checking my blood pressure to make sure that that's not too high, because I do have the headaches. But so far I think they're just because of all the congestion, because it just feels like a lot of pressure, like pressure or tension headaches. So that hasn't been too fun. After, like, as soon as I was done being nauseous, I had a headache for like 4 days, and then that finally went away, but then the congestion kind of started, and I've just been having on and off again headaches. So that's pretty rough. I'm trying a few different things to help with that, and I hope that it just kind of resolves itself, hopefully, and it doesn't get worse, or it just doesn't stick around, because it's not fun. I never had this with my other 2 pregnancies before. So yeah, that's kind of just where we are at right now. I'm gonna insert a bunch of different photos and videos during this as I'm talking, so you're not just staring at my face like I've been doing. But so after the first ultrasound, I had my very first OB appointment, and we got to take a look at baby, and he had grown so much than the little gummy bear that he was when we first saw him. You can actually see his hand and everything, like his face and stuff. Then we had a in-depth first trimester ultrasound, which was to screen for signs of Down syndrome or anything. And we got to see him in 3D, and that was pretty cool to see that. He looked so much more like a baby compared to the last 2 ultrasounds, and he just continues to grow. After that ultrasound, we had our anatomy scan, which was on Saturday. I'm thinking today is Sunday, so I was supposed to say yesterday, but which was over this past weekend, and he is doing so great. He is just growing. He's measuring a week ahead, which I don't think I've ever had happen with any of my other babies. They've always like been kind of behind. So that's interesting that he's measuring a week ahead. Yeah, a few things though that did come up during our anatomy scan that we are going to be keeping a close eye on the rest of the pregnancy is, one, my placenta is really, really low. They call it a low-lying placenta. So it's right next to my cervix. And if it goes any lower to where it's covering my cervix. It's called placenta previa, which is very, very dangerous if I were to go into labor, because I can't deliver the placenta first, right? That's the baby's lifeline right there. That can't come out first, because once it detaches and comes out, there's no more oxygen going to baby. So if it does end up becoming placenta previa, we will need to schedule a C-section, most likely between 36, 37 weeks, probably more towards 36 weeks, because when I go into labor, it usually happens really fast. I've never gone past 39, like I've never made it to 39 weeks. And I actually think with Dakota, I was around 37 and a half weeks when I went into labor with him, because there was an issue with my due date with him. So it would be really, really risky if we try to push it past 37 weeks, I think. If I do have, if I am diagnosed with placenta previa, but we have our fetal echo scheduled. We have our fetal echo scheduled in April, and that is a standard ultrasound that they do of the heart for all IVF babies, because with IVF, they do have a higher chance of developing heart abnormalities and having heart complications. It's just more common with IVF babies. And we will also check the placement of the placenta. Another thing that came up during the anatomy scan is the doctor said that the baby has a 2-vessel cord. So a normal umbilical cord has 3 vessels. It is 2 arteries and 1 vein, and he has 1 artery and 1 vein, which is fine, but it could cause some growth restriction. Thankfully he's measuring ahead though, so hopefully he continues to measure ahead and we don't have to worry about any growth restriction, because if he does start to fall behind, depending on how far behind he falls, they'll have to induce to get him out sooner, because he's just not getting all the nutrients he needs from the placenta because of that 2-vessel cord. So during the echo, we will also check on the cord and make sure that he's still growing, and we will probably continue to have more closely monitoring, he said, more growth scans. Usually for a normal pregnancy, you would have your anatomy scan around 17, 20 weeks, and then that's it. You would only have another ultrasound at like 36 weeks to determine baby's position, how much baby weighing before delivery, to kind of get a guesstimate. But this time we will probably have a lot more, just so that we can make sure that he is getting all the nutrients that he needs. So yeah, I'm not too worried about any of this. I know a lot of people might be a little bit a little bit nervous about it. I think my IPs are a little bit nervous about it, but I try to reassure them, like, you know, it's okay. So yeah, that's everything that's going on right now. We actually have a very big trip coming up in a couple of days. Me and the kids are going to see my sister in San Diego, and then for a week, and then we're going to be flying from San Diego to New Orleans to see my family, Tori's family, for about 2 weeks. So I'm really looking forward to just getting away from Hawaii. It's been 2.5 years since I've seen any of my family besides the few family members who have come to see us here, which is my brother. My sister came once or twice, and then both grandparents. My mom and Tori's mom have come to see me, or us. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not going to bring my camera or film anything. I'm just I don't have the energy still to do any of that. But hopefully I might bring my camera for the fetal echo and to get an update on how everything is looking for that. And that's all the updates I have. So stay tuned for the next update. I have no idea when it will be because I was going to be posting this video over a month ago and we ended up moving, and everything that just happened with the water issue here, and it's just thrown us in for a loop. So I have no idea what the next video will look like. I'm hoping I can record a little bit of the echo, but I will probably be adding it to some other updates that I will film throughout the pregnancy. You can catch the most recent updates though that I post on Instagram. I save everything to my surrogacy highlights, so you can go back and see everything I've posted surrogacy related to this pregnancy on there. That will be like real-time updates on everything there, because I am terrible at updating YouTube apparently. It's not something that I just reach for the camera to want to like do. But this is what the bump is looking like at 17 weeks and 2 days. So yeah, I can feel him moving too, just a little bit. My placenta is also anterior, for those who kind of know what posterior anterior is. My placenta's on the top, like instead of here's like baby right here, instead of the placenta being behind baby, it's in front of baby, so it muffles all the kicks and movement, but I can still feel him move pretty well. I think it's not like extreme right now, but I can still feel him move, so that's pretty nice to be able to like, oh, he's moving now. So I know he's doing okay in there. But yeah, I will catch you in the next update.